This video and this social media project is dedicated to those who have sacrificed, struggled, and lost their lives at the hands of the government in an attempt to expose the truth about the UFO ET cover-up, and for all of the starseeds who have been attacked by the government, who have become targeted individuals and victims of directed energy attacks as well as extraterrestrial attacks. I want you all to know that there are people out here who still care about you, and I am here to give you all a voice. Hey everybody. Earlier today, someone asked me online, how did you become a targeted individual and why is the government targeting you? Well, it's a long story, but it really starts with my childhood. For a very, very long time, going way back to the very beginning, I had periodic psychic experiences that I didn't tell any of the adults about. Later on in my life, these experiences became more intense and more frequent. When we got to, I'd say around 2001, things really started to take off. And then when 2003 came, I had a violent allergic reaction to the allergy drug Singulair and a very close brush with death, where I was hospitalized multiple times over the course of a week. Anyway, at the end of that experience, I had a 3-week period of telepathic and empathic experiences, which led me to believe that there was something significantly different about me than everyone else that I knew. And at the end of that 3rd week, I had a psychic download which told me that I needed to find people like myself and that they were on the internet. This led me on a 2-year search, at which point I found an Enki cult called the Joy of Satan. It was the last place that I had thought to look. But I had been subconsciously programmed by extraterrestrials to take part in that group for approximately 7 months. At which point, I met a lot of people like myself who were there for the exact same reason, including one person who was a past life family member. The experiences didn't stop after I left the Joy of Satan. In fact, they accelerated to the point where I had ET contact each and every day. I could easily initiate it by simply saying the person's name in my head, at which point they would show up and talk to me. And the thing about the Joy of Satan is that it was being watched by not just the FBI, but the CIA as well as the ADL for a lot of reasons. But the main reason that the Central Intelligence Agency, the NSA, and so forth were watching the group is because they knew that there was extraterrestrial contact that was taking place within a theological facade. The facade wasn't Satanism. That was the psychological camouflage to hide the website in plain view. But what was going on inside was an Enki cult. And if you know anything about starseeds, you know that most of us seem to be awakened and activated when we are exposed to the Sumerian clay tablet story. And that's exactly what happened to me. And it happened to everybody else in the group. Now, once I left the group, I continued to have contact, like I just mentioned. But the problem was that the NSA was closely watching that group and anyone associated with it because there were spiritual warfare activities going on. We were doing spiritual warfare drills and so on and so forth. It became really a matter of national security. And I'll explain exactly why that is a little bit later in the video, but roughly for about 12 years after that, I tried to contact researchers, not just about the group, but about my own experiences. And I had gotten 0 responses from everyone that I contacted. Eventually, I contacted Rex Bear about 2 different times. Rex Bear, the Leak Project, by the way. So I didn't get anything. And then at some point, I was around, let's see, when was it? Spring of 2019, I started to become fatally sick with a neurological heart condition that has been extremely difficult to diagnose. At that point, I came to the conclusion that I needed to try to contact researchers once again to try to get my story out because I didn't want to die and take it with me. So I sent an email to Rex Bear of the Leak Project. And I did a previous video about this, and you can watch what happened after he read my email on air, and then after that he had an implanted dreamscape, which then led to him being afraid to talk to me. But what that did is that set the bells and whistles off, and essentially I got flagged by the National Security Agency, because once they saw that, they knew that there was something more going on with me than most of the people that are online talking about these experiences. I became a person of interest. And what they were doing with the Leak Project, as well as what they do with many, many different podcasters and researchers, is they use them for an information hub. So what that means is that they monitor their email accounts, they monitor their phone calls, and all of their social media activity is monitored and scrutinized. The purpose of it is to fish for people like myself. They're not so much concerned about the people doing the podcast, unless of course they have ET contact themselves. But what they're doing with Rex Bear is using him as a source of leads. It's a fishing operation. Anyway, after that, about 4 weeks after contacting him, I began to get digital harassment in my cell phone and my landline. And this has continued on for the last couple of years and still goes on today. Now these sounds in my phone are keyword activated. So if I have a discussion about extraterrestrials and say a forum, a Zoom chat, or if I say something in an email to someone, or if I make a video, the NSA will actually take out certain keywords in those discussions, and when I bring them up on my phone, that's when the sound effects start. It's their way to let me know that they don't want me talking about it, and also to let me know that they listen to everything that I've done. So that's the digital harassment part of this. Now I'm going to talk about something that I like to call intersection points, and this is when two or more people intersect on social media. And this exact same thing happened between Rex and I. That was an intersection point. Seems like I'm having some sort of glitch here in my computer. Anyway, so that's an intersection point. Now there's another intersection point that I experienced later on. This was about less than a year ago. I was told to go into Project Avalon by my ET contacts, at which point I went into Project Avalon and I was told to go in there and ask for help. And I apologize. If you see a flash of light on this screen, this is something weird that's taken place. It isn't something indicative of my computer. It doesn't normally behave this way. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, I came across another intersection point because after posting in Project Avalon, I had a member, well, actually a long-standing member of Project Avalon, contact me. We became friends, and we began talking, and he admitted to me that he had been a targeted individual for some time, since 2016, and that they had attempted to kill him and his girlfriend, as well as other contactees that are in Project Avalon. I took his story very seriously because at the same time that we were talking, we were both having mutual psychic experiences, as well as the ETs that I have contact with were urging me to continue to correspond with him, and I could probably say the same thing for him. So after months and months of talking and discussing things, I started to become terminally sick again with a heart condition, at which point I pretty much stopped doing my podcast. When I came back, that's when things really heated up. The NSA had paid attention to everything that I'd said, and some of the things that this friend of mine and I had talked about were quite provocative in regard to national security issues. And so immediately after I came back and started doing the podcast again, that's when things really started to heat up. Not only was I encountering what I thought were tones and audible sounds that were out of the norm, but there was also some directed energy attacks that I had experienced. They're hard to differentiate from the ET attacks that I also encountered because sometimes they kind of overlap one another. And what I'm talking about when I say ET attacks is that I'm talking about Draco reptilian attacks, which are often referred to as Archon attacks. This was something that in the past I had actually thought was something that was done by spirit guides and so forth to teach people lessons and to guide or manipulate them to do certain things. And to some degree that may be true. But what I found is something quite different. In fact, I found out that there's an alliance between Draco reptilians and other non-human ETs with the United States military and private military contractors, as well as military contractors and militaries around the world that are involved in the transatlantic system that are taking part in this conspiracy to target people. And what I found is that they used a type of AI thought form attack, which is the interesting part about that is that what you encounter psychically in your third eye that's attacking you looks exactly like the demons that are depicted in the Catholic artwork from the Vatican that was done probably sometime after the Council of Nicaea met on forward. And this is to scare people into believing in Jesus and accepting him as your Lord and Savior and financially supporting the Catholic faith. They had depicted drawings, artwork of demons and so forth. And what I found interesting is that these AI astral attacks looked exactly like that. And also sometimes they look like grays that are completely black with red eyes. So I began having those types of psychic attacks. And when I talk about psychic attacks, I don't just mean something that tries to influence your thinking or to put negative thoughts or make you feel negative or miserable in a certain way or angry towards someone. What I'm talking about is physical attacks, the type of attacks where you wake up in the middle of the night and you feel like someone has beaten you up and you're sore for several days. My friend that I was referring to has actually experienced deep scratches that bleed from the inside out. Very similar to what people experience at hauntings. And these attacks go hand in hand with the directed energy attacks as well as the digital NSA harassment that takes place. And by the way, I've also had the NSA download the contents of my hard drive multiple times, as well as download the contents of a hard drive of a friend of mine that I talked to on the phone about extraterrestrials on occasion. In fact, he and I have this ongoing joke about playing the cowbell and making noises because whenever we talk and I bring these subjects up, we hear things, not so much like cowbells, but I've heard sounds like rain sticks, people laughing, someone trying to hammer on a hollow steel pipe, as well as using a pipe wrench on a pipe fitting. There's a whole variety of sound effects, including ear-piercing screeching sounds, and a technique where they take and I guess they do something electronically to stretch out your voice to where it sounds like it's in slow motion. I've had those. I've had all sorts of noises, and it's been going on, like I said, since the end of 2019. Now, just recently, things really got intense because I had a Draco reptilian show up and psychically tell me, or actually telepathically tell me in my left ear that he could free me from my body. It was a creepy way of telling me that they were going to kill me. At which point, you know, I was in the middle of washing dishes, and I actually told this being to hold on. I had to finish, and I said, hold on, hold that thought. And then I sat down and I had a telepathic conversation with this individual. And I won't go into the whole details of it, but what happened is he told me that if I didn't stop what I was doing, and I said, what do you mean, stop what? He said, stop everything that you're doing. And I said, what do you mean? He says, the videos and anything else that you're going to do and regarding your project, we want it to be stopped completely. And he said, if I do that he'll spare my life. At which point I explained to him that I was going to die anyway, and everybody dies because nobody gets off this planet alive. And if it meant that I die a few months early, or maybe a year early, whatever it happens to be, then so be it, because it was well worth it. And I explained to him that you could kill one of us, but there's droves of us coming here. And then if you kill one of us, it's like a shark. It's like a great white shark losing its tooth, because there's an entire row behind it ready to replace it the moment that it falls out. He then threatened me once again, and then told me that not only would they kill me, that they would take my soul hostage. At which point I reminded him that we're in a planetary consciousness simulation, and that this entire thing is a live-action role-playing game. And I was fully aware of that. And I told him that there's rules of engagement, at which point he laughed maniacally, made the threat again, and then he left, only to show up the following day making more threats and using profanity and insulting me. At which point I had contacted my friend that I just mentioned previously, and he had the ability at the time to run this Draco off. Since then, I've had pretty severe psychic attacks. When I did the Typical Skeptic podcast interview last time, I woke up 3 hours after I went to sleep that night, and I couldn't get back to sleep because I felt like my upper body had been beaten with a nightstick. I was sore for 3 days. I've had a type of a psychic energy attachment attached to my ankle about 2 months ago, which is causing excruciating pain. I've had it x-rayed. I've had a doctor look at it. They can't figure out what it is. They blame it on nerve issues, which of course I've had a lot of spine surgeries, so that would be the normal thing to blame it on. But in reality, I know exactly what it is because I saw the extraterrestrials put it on me. I took it off, and I've taken it off multiple times, and they keep putting it back on. My ankle's been swollen for 2 straight months. I've been taking pain pills, as well as anti-inflammatories just to be able to walk. And some days are better than others, but it's like I said, as soon as I remove the energy attachment, they put it back on. The directed energy attacks are a little bit different from what a lot of other people explain or describe. In my case, there was audible tones in my ears, which the ETs that I deal with told me that that was a type of calibration type of process that they go through, which I really have no idea if that's accurate or not. I can only imagine maybe it is. But then it was the type of directed energy that can cause physical pain. I even had my right arm act like it was attached to a TENS unit, where I had a rhythmic type of contraction going up and down my right arm one night while I was editing a video. So what I want people to know from this is that the reason that they're targeting us like this is because they know that there's a great awakening, and there's far more to it than that, because they also know that there's starseed sleeper cells. And what these are people that have been sent here from other worlds who are sitting basically dormant and waiting for a mission. And this mission involves taking down soft targets within the military-industrial complex. This is what the government's paranoid about, because they know that we're here for social engineering purposes, and that social engineering purposes also involves offensive psychic assassinations and other damage to Department of Defense infrastructure. I know this is pretty much extremely controversial, and I sound like I'm a delusional schizophrenic when I say this type of thing, but I can assure you that it's absolutely true, because the NSA firmly believes in it, and so does the CIA, so does the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the Department of Defense, as well as DARPA. Every one of these people, every one of these agencies have their hands to some degree in a compartmentalized program that is designed to find people like myself and others and kill them. So that's what I wanted to talk about, and I'll be talking about this in the future. I want to ask everybody out there, if you have found a video online of somebody talking about exactly what I'm saying or something similar, please forward it to me, and you can find my email address on my YouTube channel. If you follow the About link, you can go down to the email address link. Please click on that and email me and send me a link to that video. I found one recently through a friend, and this guy was really done a raw deal. He was injected with radioactive isotopes and murdered within a 6-month period. His YouTube videos start in the spring and they end around, I think, December, at which point he had lost a lot of weight and was extremely sick, and then he passed away. And he was experiencing the exact same the Defense Intelligence Agency directed energy attacks, and he was also getting the same Draco reptilian attacks and a variety of other things. And I'm going to do a video about him and a tribute to what he had accomplished in his life and what he was trying to do as far as getting the truth out. And I'm going to do this with every single person who has had a social media presence who has been murdered by the government in regard to this subject. So anyway, I want to say thank you for listening, and I hope this answers your questions, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.